You've got to just keep going. And I always talk about showing up consistently. I think consistency is what has gotten full circle thus far. When we just started, when everything we were doing it for free, there are some months of like, are we going to pull this through? Because we only had cost units then. There was no revenue point. It was just cost, 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 you know? So, for consistency, and people are watching. All they just hear is, oh, they said this one is for my high blood pressure, this one is for my ears, for my nose, and they're consuming. So we need to look at that. And I'm grateful to all the medical experts who take their time, the pharmacists who take their time to maybe when the senior needs medication, they explain. Because some of us senior citizens, maybe they don't have the capacity to read through and maybe compare notes or Google. They just consume. But really, people need to compare. And this thing about supplements, there's so much. I think we need to be preaching healthy eating, gardening, eating from our gardens, just healthy activities, lifestyle management, as opposed to overloading supplements onto our systems. So those are places where we collaborate a lot with medical experts because you see, we can't do that on our own. We need them. We also collaborate with government very closely. In Lagos State here, we collaborate with the Lagos State Health Insurance Scheme. A lot of our seniors are on Lagos State Health Insurance Scheme, and from time to time they come to visit just to be sure that the seniors are fine, they're being well attended to. That's something that Lagos State is doing right, and our seniors are great beneficiaries of that scheme. So that's going really well with government. On the federal level, we're also in talks with the National Senior Citizen Center to see what we can unlock there. So we are not shy of collaborating, even with fellow people who are doing working in similar practices like homes. We are part of the Lagos State Association of Elderly Care Practitioners. So whenever things come up, we're definitely happy to lend our voice, show support, and just come together because the problem we're solving is big. Those of us trying to solve it were like this. So we need to come together. We need to do more, and there's a whole lot we can do together. So definitely, we're not shy of that. Now, on the question of marketing, how are we getting our voices heard? The things we do. I thank God for the era of social media because it's really lifted us from point A, from zero visibility to where we're at now, where we're gaining visibility, not just in Nigeria, across the globe, actually. The simple things we do. And I keep saying to everyone that life is really simple. The things we need to do to live wholesomely, meaningfully are the simple things when we really look at them. What are the simple things? Wake up every day, have a friend you need to visit, play games, eat healthy, just go out there. It's not the most expensive things that makes life worthy. It's just I'll say maybe intentional things that we do. So and I have quite in terms of the organization, we have very young staffers. In terms of, we have volunteers, young people who are just very enthused and like, oh my God, I like to work with senior citizens. So we have those people. Like, our volunteer list is quite enormous. Sometimes we're like, please, we need more senior volunteers. Everybody. But that's really an amazing thing because when I look at it, I'm like, I'm happy that young people are also getting to see that volunteering is such a thing. Like, when you give up your time, you're learning. And it's almost like you're going to school for free because you could do a lot of other things with that same time. But being with seniors, if you're observant enough, if you're paying attention enough, you're learning something. There are people who volunteer with us when they're on midterm break, they're coming to volunteer. When any little break, they're coming. And I'm like, these people, they don't know it, but they're really positioning themselves for a great future ahead. They can decide to pivot at any point in time. And just like me, when I was taking care of my grandma, that I wasn't conscious, taking care of my grandpa, this could be that unconscious moment for them. And somewhere in the future, it's just going to add up and they just get the key to move. So that helps us. Social media is amazing. We've gone on a couple of radio shows and just like the podcast we're having now. So when we get invites like this, we're definitely happy to come on to tell our story because storytelling is a thing. And also we have I think last year we shot our first ever documentary called Project Diamond Years. It's available on YouTube. So what we did in commemoration of the International Day of Older Persons, which also was the 65th independence anniversary for our country, Nigeria. And you know, according to WHO, World Health Organization, 65 is actually when you can be called a senior citizen. So
Really?
Nigeria is a senior citizen.
He's a senior citizen. He's a
So
senior
in
country.
commemoration of that day, we decided to just shoot a documentary that was going to get our seniors to talk about the yesteryears.
Mm,
So we had people sharing their moment of Nigeria's independence, where they were on
mm.
that day. We had people who said, "Oh, I was a
Um,
race course." You know, you should go see the documentary. It's such an amazing. I think it's a 45 minutes.
it's on YouTube, right?
Yes, it's on YouTube. It's
Okay,
beautiful.
take
It's
it.
amazing, and we hope to do more of such as well because I think there's so much that sits within that aging segment. I'll give you an example. My grandmom was so knowledgeable about herbs. Like, you know, if you said, "Grandma, my eye," she knew what to go get in the garden that she would put in there, and your eye will be fine. But you know, growing up, I always thought my grandmother would live forever. So the day she died, I was like, "What? Grandma died? Oh my god!" She didn't. I went to my mom. I said, "Mommy, what was this thing that grandma is?" I don't know. What was this other thing? I don't know. I'm like, God. I went to my uncle. Uncle, what? None of her four kids knew. And now that I'm in the position, one of the things I'm starting to preach to my geriatric population is document your life. The life you've lived, document it. Tell us about your journey, the things you learned along the way. That someone else who is currently 10 years old can pick your book, read it, and pick a big lesson that would, you know, either push that person into his or her future or help that person not to derail. You know, that's something I'm starting to preach now. Like, and I say a lot. So there's something we do at the Memory Cafe, which is also reminiscence therapy. So we ask our seniors to bring their photo albums through the years. Oh my God, you need to witness one of such. And when they start, oh my God, I was 25 here. They tell you the story of that picture, what happened, why that picture was taken, who was in that picture, if it was a fight with someone, if it was a wedding. And you know what that does? It makes them happy. It joggles memory. And at the end of that activity, they are refreshed. They've got more adrenaline to go another maybe 2 more months, 3 more months. And ultimately, it's driving longevity. So documenting our journey is such an important thing. And because these elderly people, they've seen so much that we haven't seen. They know so much. We shouldn't let them go without extracting of that knowledge, of that wisdom, of that history. You know, one thing I think we haven't done too well in Nigeria in particular is we haven't documented our history so well. And that's what we can get from our seniors citizens. So in the future, we're looking at situations where we start to do intergenerational exchanges. So that's something that's very big as a project for us. Intergenerational exchange. You could be exchanging stories, you could be exchanging recipes, you could be exchange. You know, there's so much in that space. So I repeat again, collaborators, investors. There's so much where this is coming from. You guys should please come on board. There's a lot going on here, and it's a good place to invest and to be at this time in our world, in our life.
Well, thanks a lot for sharing that. But I still have a few questions to ask you. So I will try and make it pretty quick, right? So that we can run very quickly. Um, Number one question. So I will let me ask maybe two to three questions together, and then if you can just touch on them very quickly, and then we just move on. Number one is around if we're going to scale. impact in this your space, right? I don't know, maybe you're thinking along the lines of starting like an academy at some point, right? You know that I can come and learn, and then I can then do you get what I mean? I mean, if it is a thought, it may be what if you can double click into that. The other one is around, you mentioned investors and all of that, and since that is about money, I want to share a little, if it is okay, right, on how you funded this, right? Did you have to just all of your savings and everything, you just say I'll put everything into it, or did you raise funding from here and there, and then hopefully we'll also be able to get some investors in the near future who can also be a part of it? So those two questions very quickly, and then I'll ask two more final questions, and and then we'll go. So let's see if we can wrap up in. By the way, we've been speaking for 1 hour 30 minutes. By the way,
Oh,
just to let you
okay.
know,
Just just to
funny.
okay, just recap the first question. I know the second question you said funding. How have we funded? What was the first?
No, so are there thoughts towards like having some
Academy.
kind of
Okay.
an
All right.
academy where
Okay.
you
Got you.
can
Got you.
kind of multiply that, the impact of what you're trying to do within?
Sure, sure. So I'll start with the first one, which is the academy. Definitely, we have that in the pipeline because, if you recall, when I started talking about dementia, which is something I'm so passionate about, there's such a huge knowledge gap around. In fact, around elderly care, there's a huge knowledge gap, let alone dementia, which, if you also look the statistics, we're seeing an increase in number of seniors who are presenting with dementia. And we're even seeing an increase in number of 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds who are presenting with dementia. So it's no longer something for elderly people. We're seeing that it's cascading downwards to even younger set of people. So there's an urgent need to drive awareness, education around what dementia is, what methods to use in managing dementia, aside from the clinical, because of course the hospital, the doctors will deal with the clinical, but then it's not just about popping drugs. There's the lifestyle aspect of how they're living. Because if you give them drugs every day, they still have to live. They've got to get up, they've got to eat, they've got to have social interactions. How are we moderating that? Now, for the caregivers, because many of us, would get random nannies, house help, who have zero understanding of what dementia is. So in at our memory cafe, that's why we actually extend it beyond the person living with dementia to say this program is for the person living with dementia and the primary caregiver. The reason is we need to include the caregiver in that process so that the caregiver gets an understanding of what is going on. If you know better, you will do better and there will be better outcomes. So we've got to train them by involving them. So all of the activities at the memory cafe, the caregivers are involved. So when they leave the cafe, the expectation is that when they get back home, even if it's once a week or twice, they will get to repeat some of the activities we have modeled for them at the cafe. Now, setting up an academy even further helps to get more people trained, to understand it, to be able to demystify it, to be able to care appropriately for the person living with dementia. That is only when we can have good outcomes when it comes to caring for persons living with dementia. So our academy definitely is something we are positioning for in the future. We want to be able to train people on how to offer care to senior citizens so that the cases of elder abuse can, you know, if we cannot fully eradicate it, let's reduce the statistics. Sometimes people abuse senior citizens not because it's intentional wickedness, it's just lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. If I don't know why you're behaving the way you're behaving, there's a high chance that I could get frustrated and mistreat you. But if I understand, if I understand, I'll be I would, there'll be empathy, and I'll treat you better and there'll be better outcomes. So we've got to close that knowledge gap. That's as regards the academy. To the second question, which is around investments. Yeah. So I kid you not, coming into this space was me putting all my head in. Everything I had had to go in first. However, along the line, we've gotten support. We've also done a bit of fundraising. Yeah. And yeah, we've gotten some sort of support so far. But then it's still a drop in the ocean, I would say, because this space requires a whole lot, especially when we're talking about building memory care facilities for persons living with dementia. That's a whole different level of investment in terms of what it requires. And even globally, there's not so many memory care facilities. So dementia is a global concern. Everyone is still trying to understand dementia globally. Just that some are more advanced in the learning on that learning curve than we are here. But then it's doable. That's why we have experts who, like, I went back to school to go and learn about this, because if I'm going to play in this field, I've got to be skilled, appropriately skilled for it. So I've gotten the skill set that I need. Now is to play it out, implement, and get a lot of support. So far there's been a lot of friend family fundraising, there's been ex-colleague kind of fundraising, but then we're really looking for the big bet. We're looking for those who will take a big bet on Africa, take big bets on Nigeria, and say, this space, we've got to make it work, because we've got all it takes here. I promise you, we've got all it takes. There are new players every day. People are thinking out of the box a whole lot these days, and are seeing that there's so much we can do to offer better quality of life to our senior citizens. And when we get it right, what it does for us is we know that we're also going to live better when we get there. So it's not an investment that's going to waste. It's not going to waste. So I want to assure anyone who's thinking about investing and thinking, oh, there's no ROI after this phase. What next? No, there is, but it's going to be a patient build up, because there really there's no script. There's really no playbook for Africa. The old playbook we had was the extended family care pattern, which is gradually fading up. So we're now writing a new script for how we want to treat or care for senior citizens. So let's do this together. If you're interested in this, please reach out. This is the market, good soil to invest in. Thank you.
Please reach out. Please reach out. That's very helpful, right? I mean, great to know. You put your money where your mouth is, as we used to say, right?
Absolutely.
So, and
Absolutely.
then you can then with confidence ask people to come and pitch in, because I mean you've done a lot, and I'm sure that investors will come around. Final two questions, and I will allow you
Okay.
to go. I know the time is already up, right? Final two questions. I know you've mentioned you have volunteers, you have doctors, you have people within your network that support you, right? Are there any, in your journey, right, dealing with people, right, either as an entrepreneur or before and all of that? Are there pain points you've learned, right? And pain points that you've experienced, right? And how would you, um, how what would your advice be in managing people, people, processes, and all of that? Just general thought on one hand. Then on the other hand is to every young entrepreneur out there, right, who is nursing a dream to do what you're doing one day, right? What would be your final word to them to say that, yeah, I'm still on the stage, guys, but I'm not going anywhere yet. So not final in that sense, but in
Yeah.
sense like, okay, end of this interview, guys, this is the gem I want to leave with you. If you do this, I think you're gonna be fine, and then we can call it a wrap.
Okay. Thank you once again. So, on this journey, like any other journey, getting the right people continues to be one of the biggest challenges any entrepreneur would face, aside from financing, because finance always is a setback. But you've got to just keep going. And I always talk about showing up consistently. I think consistency is what has gotten full circle thus far. When we just started, when everything we were doing it for free, there are some months of like, are we going to pull this through? Because we only had cost units then. There was no revenue point. It was just cost, 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 you know? So for consistency, and people are watching. That's the truth. People may not like you on social media or like your post or follow you, whatever, but trust me, people are watching. People are in rooms having conversations about you. So the best you can do for yourself, or if you're a serious minded entrepreneur, is to keep showing up. Because the day the door is going to open wide for you, it's going to be because you're consistent. And consistency, preparation. When that opportunity comes, you've got to be prepared. That's why you've got to wake up every day, back to the grind, keep showing up better, keep improving against all odds. Entrepreneurship is not easy. Even whilst we worked in 9 to 5, the truth was it was never easy at the top. It's never going to be easy. But if you know what you're doing, that's why maybe I'm going to the advice point now. Anyone who says I have a venture, I want to start a venture, I want to go into entrepreneurship, I would always say you got to sleep and ask yourself, what is your why? If your why is money, you're very quick to fail. It's going to be so easy to fail because by the time the challenges look you in the face, if you're not grounded in your why, like, why am I doing full circle? I'm doing it for impact. Is because I see a white space and I see a future cash opportunity. Because for those of us building now, when many people now wake up, maybe in another 5, 10 years, then it might already have become a cash cow. Like everybody now, let's meet. But some of us are going to lay the foundation, and I'm happy to be one of those that are going to be laying the foundation now. But what is my motivation? Money is not. If money were my motivation, I would not be here. I'll probably be in 9 to 5, where it's convenient. Your salary gets paid at the end of the month, and everybody smiles home. But for me, life has become more than just salary. Life is for me now impact. So my life is really impact driven now. I want to go to places and I want to be offered a seat, not because I'm gorgeously dressed. I want to be offered a seat because somebody identifies what I do, the value I bring. Somebody sees me and says, "You're bringing full circle. I love what you do." As a matter of fact, that's always the high point of my meeting with anyone. So if I meet anyone and either they know about full circle or someone is talking about full circle, like, oh, you're the baby in your full circle. Oh my God. And the hug becomes bigger. Or, or I'm just sitting down talking to someone about full circle, like, oh my God, I love what you do. For me, that is more than money. And that is enough for me to wake up tomorrow and get back on the grind that we're making impact. When I hear things from families like, thank you so much for all you do. We're so grateful. We're so grateful that our mom is a part of full circle, or we're so grateful that our dad is a part of full circle. His quality of life has improved, his life is better. For me, that trumps every financial benefit. That I can make one life better. That one person, maybe who had the diagnosis and the doctors had said, okay, 6 more months to live, just because they found full circle. That person has lived 2 years. That's 18 months more than the doctors thought he would live. For me, that is everything. And that keeps me motivated. I want to replicate that in many families. I want more elderly people to cross over to 90, to cross over to 100, because they have a full circle, because they have that community that is encouraging them to live another day, live another month, as opposed to just staying indoors, lonely and waiting for death. Do you know there are people who are waiting to die? Because there's nothingness. Nothingness is worse than any disease. Like being in that position of nothingness, like nothing works, nothing matters. You just can't
let me
find
just
it.
go.
Yes. But the ability to make
Mm,
a difference
mm,
in people's lives, for me, it trumps everything else.
Africa.
So for me, I would say to any aspiring entrepreneur, whatever it is you want to do, be it selling water or selling
Mm,
sand, over and above the financial benefit, there's got to be a
understand
very
the
big
why.
why
Mm,
that would keep you going even when the money is not coming.
it's not flowing.
And it has to be tied somehow to impact.
Mm,
Because I think that's why God created us
mm,
to do good. We've got to do good.
mm.
Because doing good makes you happy. It even makes you
Absolutely.
live longer.
Absolutely.
So it has to
Mm,
be impact based. Then I
mm.
think if you do good and you do it so well, people would
You
pay
get,
for the good
you know, get
and
value
then
out
the money
in
would come.
exchange.
So please, young entrepreneurs, don't put money before impact. Put
Wow.
impact ahead of money and do it so well. Show up. Then please also bottoms up. I like to preach bottoms up because some people like to do top down
Mm,
and it's expensive. It's
mm,
costly.
mm,
Bottoms up is slower, but however, you learn because life, every curve has
mm.
its. There's a lesson in every
Because,
stage
absolutely.
that you. If
Mm,
you miss the lesson in stage one, it's going to
mm,
impact stage four. So
mm,
you got to go stage by stage, learn the ropes.
mm,
So that's what I'll just leave with young people. Entrepreneurship is great,
mm,
and please don't be discouraged. Don't let anybody discourage you
mm,
because at the end of life, I think if we look at the founding fathers of the multinationals today, they dared to dream and they
mm,
were young.
mm,
You got to dare to dream, and that's what will make your story
mm,
interesting, even long
mm,
after we're gone. They
mm,
say that the one who has understood life is the one who's planting a tree or who's planted a
mm.
tree that he would never sit under. Because
Mm,
a tree might take
mm,
10 years to grow.
mm,
You're not going to sit on that tree,
mm,
but you're planting it. Then you understand the meaning of life, and that's
mm.
impact. So I'll
That's
just leave
impact.
that as my closing word out here.
Woo! Thank you so much, Bimini. It's been a pleasure talking and just having this conversation with you. Your passion as always is contagious. Like you just make me feel like me. Let me just pack my bag and go on. you know. So
Thank
thanks a
you for
lot for
having
sharing.
me.
It's really been a pleasure having you on Adventures and for sharing so passionately, right, from your heart, right. It's so clear, it's so obvious. This for you is a labor of love. It's not. I mean, that's a summary. It's a labor of love, right? You're passionate about it. You live it. You talk it. You know it's a critical part of who you are, right? And the changes and the differences you've made in the life of people is even enough, and it continues to fuel that passion. So thanks sharing so freely. I'm sure a lot of people
Thank you
listening to
too.
this conversation will withdraw. Just listening, will pull things here and there, and then they'll be able to do something so differently in their own journey. Thanks for everything that you've shared, and
Thank you too. It's my
yeah,
pleasure. I'm really
really
happy to
nice
be
to
here.
have you. Yeah, really nice to have you.
Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch the podcast. We are super thankful for you taking that time and investing the time to learn. We hope that you find the story inspiring, and beyond that, that you've been able to articulate one or two things that you want to do differently in your own entrepreneurial journey. May I encourage you to please like, subscribe, comment, and please share the word within your own circle of influence, especially within those that you think are on the same entrepreneurial journey with you. May I also encourage you to please, beyond subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on our other social media platforms. That means a lot to us, and we can see that that helps us to track that we're making some progress and so making some impact. Thanks a lot once again for taking the time to watch, and we'll see you on the next episode.